This is Zettelcast, brought to you by readers, writers, thinkers, and teachers from LiLLiPub, along with our partners in thought, our Zettelcastans. In this show, we share discoveries that our Zettelcastans have shown us.
There you go.
And compare notes on how we're using this marvelous invention in our creative work. Thank you for joining us.
All right, Book. Let's do it again.
All right.
Episode 77. Let's talk about space.
Hello, and welcome to episode 77 of Zettelcast. I finally made it back. I was down in my note box, and Julianne and Kathleen and Deb fished me out and brought me out for the episode. So here we are. That's right. So, for today's episode, some of you may recall that I have become rather obsessed with the theory of the chronotope and how it applies to narrative and narrative theory. You may remember that chronotope simply means time and space and how those are used in a written piece. So my question for today, since we've already talked previously about how to use time and timing in writing, I wanted to flip to the other side and look about how to use scene and setting and space as part of a story. So here is today's challenge. In keeping with my focus on the chronotope, let's talk about space. I've asked everyone to bring 2 to 3 note cards that relate in some way to a space, meaning a place where a story or a scene could occur, not necessarily out in space, unless your story is out in space, and then bring me some planets and stuff. In any case, we are looking at different ways to stretch our imagination and the way that we use space, and hopefully out of today's exercises, we'll discover some insights for ways to do that effectively, and maybe some pitfalls to avoid, because there are a few. So the bonus is if you have a scene written that demonstrates how your note card could be used, to share that as well. And I know we've got some scenes to share. So with that lengthy introduction out of the way, who wants to go first?
Oh, I can do it. Mine's pretty simplistic.
Okay.
I chose 2 different scenes just to play with them rather creatively. And then after having written my little story, I ended up with a story idea. So, or at least another line that's going to be added to the end of this one to suggest a story to follow. So my 2 places both take place at the Henge, but they're not in the Henge. And rather than give my place cards first, I'm going to read my story first, because that will be most of the explanation for what's in the places. So here's my story. It's called Helen in the Touch Me Garden. Helen, as you might recall, originally her kids are almost grown, and so she decided to get a job outside of the house so that she wouldn't have too much of an empty nest syndrome. She went to work at the Henge, and the first thing she was doing was scanning cards that led to a mystery that went nowhere. Well, Xavi's taking it on, but for her, it went nowhere. And her signal that it was going nowhere was that all of the cards disappeared, and she had a little note to report for her new assignment with the job she had said she wanted to do most when she applied to work at Hands, which was working with children. So they fulfilled her request. Now, this is how it turns out. Helen's new position at the Henge wasn't at all what she had anticipated. She was shocked at first that she had been relegated to babysitting, literally. When a parent or family realized that one of its younger members was really too young to appreciate the Henge and was interfering with an older sibling's enjoyment, Helen was called in to care for the younger child. Babysitting, plain and simple. But as she settled into her position, she found it quite satisfying. The Touch Me Garden had a lot to do with it, had a lot to do with her enjoyment of her new duties. The toddlers loved it. They could wander freely in the simulated outdoor setting on soft, velvety pathways that left a colored imprint with every footstep, enjoying the freedom to take off into the little play spaces the pathways led to. Each object in the play space was open to touch and responded to how it was approached. Helen found herself deeply refreshed to see the surprise and hear the giggles of picking of her young charges. A flower that kissed you on the cheek if you got close to it, that you could pick and carry over to Helen and hold it up to kiss Helen's cheek. Then it asked to be taken home. How fun to see the child carefully return it to the leaves from which it grew. There were balls that dropped from the plants overhead and grew in size as the little one walked towards them, scooting just out of reach, stopping for the child to catch up, then scooting further down the path to gales of laughter, finally turning soft and cuddly when at last the child succeeded in capturing one. The 3- and 4-year-olds played in the Discover Me garden and learned how levers and balances and gears worked by playing with the colorful objects, building toys for themselves on the fly with fit-together components. Sometimes the little ones clung to Helen when the family came to retrieve them to go home. Then Helen sighed too, as it meant her time in the garden was also at an end. And the little addition or slight change that's going to happen to the story is that Ellen's going to be left holding one of those little kiss me flowers and feeling that it's time to put it back with its leaves and leave the garden. And the flower's going to say to her, "Don't go."
That's awesome.
Oh,
And so the places that I described were just the Touch Me garden and the Discover Me garden.
Very cool.
love that. Don't go. Mm.
Part of Hidden in
Okay,
Plain
so
Sight, of course.
right. Who wants to follow that?
Well, my contribution is Henge related as well. It is in the Henge. So I'm going to be cherry picking from a story that is shaping up. In a previous episode of the Zettelcast, I shared a 100-word story where Angie Weir and Jenna are in the henge, and Jenna has experienced Angie's effigy from a previous effigy contest. So this is that full scene that I'm working on, and I will cover about 3 things. And like Kathleen, I think it makes more sense to just read the story part. Whew. She stands, blinking, this close to the line. They say the haptic is a humdinger, and Jenna is glad not to know for sure. It's not as though a person with one of the 5 physical senses could miss all the warnings, but it had taken increasingly theatrical throat clearing from Eleanor to pull Jenna out of her thoughts. And those had been about what? Paper and ink and addresses. The 7-foot sign beside the line declares, "Unlink before entering the henge." Thank you, Eleanor, for saving me from my multiple sins. Run along now. Next to the lurid letters of the sign, zombies clutch ooze-covered computer chips freshly yanked from their flip-top crania. She reads the credit. Todd Beatty, Century Trivium Level 5, Mixed Media. Points, Toddy, Janet says, and steps across the line towards the ep.
Excellent.
So that's the first one, and that's paying off some, there was an old card that I made, who knows how long, I'll have to look in my index, that talks about the fact that when you go into the henge, you're not going to have your link on.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the first time I actually dug into, all right, what happens to Jenna there? So that's what those cards are about. Now, inside the EP, which is the Epiphany Taffy. We were already introduced to that several episodes ago, but we didn't really talk. We just sort of hand waved over how Sunny and Chris pick a button in order to enter the henge. So this is Jenna's experience with that, or part of it, at least. Angie is speaking. You didn't ask for a full tour. We can make a quick path to my effigy from anywhere. Just pick your entrance. Jenna accomplishes that. The button Jenna has picked to enter the henge is situated on the wall, slightly above her head. She studies the quotation on the button face, rendered in grade 4 LOL. Would you like to read it to me? Angie says. Sure. They told me this might come in handy. Here goes. There is no hope unmingled with fear, and no fear unmingled with hope. Angie bumps Jenna's fist. Not bad. One reason I consider this an auspicious entry is right here. Delicately, she runs a fingernail along a line of English text clearly etched into the lower edge of the button. Jenna reads aloud. Benedict de Spinoza, The Ethics, Part 3, Definitions of the Emotions, 12 through 13. She looks back at Angie. Why is this auspicious? Angie gestures with her hand toward dozens of different buttons all over the room. The EP contains many compelling quotes on these topics. A majority of them are of confused lineage, to put it generously. This one's about as solid as they come. So that's one quote. Followed up by, or one card, sorry, followed up by a next kind of theme, related theme. Ms. Weir, how might one, such as I, gain access to sources of such commendably verifiable lineage? Angie smiles. In my thoroughly biased opinion, Ms. Whitman, the best we have are all down there. She points to the floor. The Henge archives. If your proposal is accepted into the competition, you'll have ready access to them. Parts, anyway. I'm tempted to say that's worth the price of admission. And so you have. And so I have.
Very good.
Very good. Ah,
So as you think about how to approach these sections, we'll say, these little bits of narrative, what is your process? Do you begin with what you think things look like? Like, do you set the space stage in your head first and then start moving the characters around? Or do you start with the character motivation and then put them in a space? Which way does it work for you?
It's really kind of paired. I had reason that I wanted Jenna in the henge with a kind of a learner's mindset, because she's avoided it for most of her life. This contest, for whatever reason, she's been compelled to enter this contest, and she's starting. And so I needed her there. And I needed her later on to come out, well, to experience something in there and to come out at a certain time when somebody else is near the exit. So those things needed to happen, and that's kind of a chronology thing. And so I blocked it out I started out just kind of free writing what happens
Mm-hmm.
And um, then I printed that out and I numbered the things that were distinct from each other.
Yeah.
And I free wrote some more referring to those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's all come into here. And I didn't know it was going to explode as it has. I've shared only a few of these things that came there, but there are quite a few more. I'll tease just one that our subscribers might enjoy at the whole end of this scene, which is exiting through the gift shop.
Oh.
But there are quite a few things going on here, and it was really very much like I think I've understood a puzzler experiences.
Yeah.
Have these signposts, and then I'm trying to just make them vivid,
Yeah.
and making them vivid. I mean, spoiler, I absolutely fell in love with Henge weirdo Angie Weir. Didn't know that was
That's
going to
great.
happen.
Mhm. That's great. That's perfect because the reason I ask is in service to pulling back the curtain on how one actually gets the writing done, which seems to be the thing that people are most curious about. They think, like the other day, I'm sitting here with my daughter and I'm reading authors' names out loud to myself, and it was like Beemong, Beetoot, and Deedle Me. And she's like, "Are you hexing people?" I'm like, "No, they're authors' names." But it's kind of a mystery. Like, do we sit at our desk and conjure up this crazy stuff, and where does it all come from? And what you just described perfectly illustrates you can come into the process of creating the scene from really any direction. You just have to find the kernel, the spark. And sometimes it's a character, and you just hear them and you feel them and you just know how to write them and where they're going. And other times it's a place, like the Henge. That's a very specific place with very specific parameters. And so once you make the choice to set a scene there, all of the other choices are eliminated. Number one, because you have to leave the link outside. So that perfectly illustrates the importance of why we pay attention to a sense of space in the story. Because as soon as you make a choice, you have to go down that road. It eliminates the other choices. And the cool thing is you can continue on down that road, or you can, alpha beta test it and be like, okay, what if instead of that, I put them over here? What does that look like? And write that out. And then sometimes that's how you find your way. But I find it extremely fascinating how, if nothing else, if you're just absolutely stuck and you don't know where to go, take the character and put them in a weird place, or change the time. Like you said, that's another component of how to build the scene to drive the story. I know my person starts here and I need to get them over to here in space or time, either way. And once you set yourself that question, your brain starts figuring out, how am I going to get them over there? And that's how you draft it out. So I'm glad that you articulated that the way that you did, because that is exactly the point of the exercise, which is, if you can't look at it from one way, try the other way, and it might get you where you need to go. Awesome.
One thing I'd like to add also, I mean, this experience being so fresh in my mind and so eruptive.
Yeah.
Over in fusion writing, we experience this with authors who experience the eruption as they start writing. And it's like, I don't know what to do with all of this. And it's, if you go in expecting I'm going to write these little cards first and it's going to be neat and tidy, maybe not. I found a whole new branch in my story here, after the fact. And before I have finished drafting, I don't need to finish the drafting in order to capture, okay, there's something that's got legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And that's a feeling of comfort.
Yeah.
Because it feels
Yes.
like it's more than I can handle. But I can handle making the cards right now. I can stop
Right.
or
Yeah.
pause, make the
Uh-huh.
cards.
Mhm.
It's kind of a nice little exhale and then go back in and not feel like I have to have carried all of it all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Even with my little snippet, the
Mhm.
your exercise helped me because I knew that I had that we used Helen to introduce where the cards that Javi had discovered went. And so I had this character, and so she's the loose ends right now. So she's a story element that can go in lots of different directions. And I knew that one of the ways they got her out of that mystery piece so that Javi could take it and run. He was very, oh, well, I guess we can't do any more with it then, can we? And she says, oh, yeah, I guess not. And so she lets it go and he's off running. Well, what was it that they presented her with? And where's the doorway that could lead to? And so the cards, just by inventing the Touch Me Garden was the first one I created as a space. And I thought, there you go, I'll put her there.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
Awesome.
I didn't do anything like that.
That's why
my,
you're our Deb.
yeah, well, there I go, Um, I have my way of coming up with stuff, or this is what's been happening. I don't know if it's my way, but this is the pattern that's been happening, is to find some intersection of something,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
of things.
Mhm.
There is this situation, and then there's this other situation. Now, what happens if at that sweet spot when they overlap? What
Uh-huh.
is it like inside there?
Yeah.
What problems would my character have inside there at that intersection?
Ah.
Um, and you can go off all kinds of ways, because just like Lo, and that's, I thank Mel so much, but the idea of combining all these different things, you can it's never ending in terms of the places you can go, the things that you can think about. So I ended up writing 3 pieces or 2 pieces with three cards,
Oh.
two. And so I'm calling this is like space as story,
Oh.
right? Space as story. And the idea of seeing personhood, right? What is it? Personhood should be a given, right? I mean, the fact that you come out of your mom's womb and you take your first breath and scream to the world, "I'm here," should be enough. That's your ticket to personhood,
Mhm.
okay? But the way things are in this world that sometimes deals only with, or seems to only deal with, zero sum,
Uh-huh.
right? Personhood becomes a political something, a
Oh.
political
Mhm.
definition. I mean, in my ancestry, we were 3/4 of a person, or 3/5 of a 3/5 of a person.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Now, what does that mean? If the government or whomever the powers are can decide what your person, what being a person means, that also means that they can take it away.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
You know, it's not an inalienable right to be a person, to, to have the right to have rights, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then in my travels trying to figure this out, it occurred to me that Without consistency, there is no place to be somebody.
Mm.
You know, it's like, and maybe that begins to explain some of the craziness that's happening with the children today, right? Because there's so many things to pick from,
Mm.
and rather than being able to go home and say, wow, that's crazy out there, huh, Ma? Ma's having her own set of problems, you know?
Mm.
And she said, no, I got these bills to pay. Go away. Don't bother me. Anyway, I've got this one little story about a woman and another little story about a guy. She learned early that the girl her mother needed and the girl she actually was did not overlap in any useful way. By 14, she had stopped trying to introduce them. She was bright, so school gave her a role. She played it, valedictorian, responsible one, the girl who could be counted on. None of it like exactly lying. None of it felt, I'm sorry, exactly like lying. It felt like wearing clothes that fit well enough, but that belonged to somebody else.
Mm.
At 19, she fell in love for the first time with a boy who said she was the most alive person he had ever met. She didn't know what he was saying. She searched herself for it and came back empty-handed. She loved him for seeing it, and she left him when the weight of being seen by someone who was seeing the wrong thing became unbearable.
Mm.
This became her pattern. She was extraordinarily good at beginnings. New city, new job, new relationships. She arrived fully, invested completely, and waited to feel the recognition that did not come. The man at 32 told her she was unknowable. He meant it as a compliment. She heard it as a diagnosis. She married at 35 practically to a decent man who did not ask too many questions. The marriage was not unhappy. It was quiet in a specific way that two people are quiet when neither is fully present in the same room. She was a good mother. She loved the children with the one part of herself that required no narrative continuity, only presence. Her children were the one relationship that didn't demand she produce an identity in exchange for connection. At 58, her husband died. She grieved genuinely and then noticed with something close to horror that she felt underneath the grief a terrifying spaciousness, room, finally, for a self she could not find. She spent her 60s looking, therapy, travel, a Buddhist meditation retreat in Western Massachusetts, where a teacher told her that the self she was searching for had never existed in the form she imagined. She wept for 3 days. It was the most at home she had ever felt. She died at 79 in a house she had lived in for 11 years, the longest she had stayed anywhere. Her children said she had finally seemed in the last decade at peace. They could not have said what changed. She could have, but she never quite found the words, which struck her at the end as perfectly fitting. So that's the end of
Oof.
that one.
Oh, oh.
I feel like we just read a novel.
Wow.
That had gravity, my friend.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got to unclench.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be, it could literally be fleshed out into a novel.
I can turn it into a novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be your outline. I think Victoria's exactly correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good bones.
that's okay. Good bones. All right, that's
Yeah.
him. You want to hear about? That's her. You want to hear
Yeah.
about him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. The man who was always between things. That's the title. He was 17 when his father looked at him across the dinner table and said, with genuine puzzlement, I don't know who you are. His father meant it as a failure of the son. The son recognized it as the most accurate thing anyone had ever said to him. He was athletic enough to pass, funny enough to be liked. Neither quality touched anything interior. He moved through high school the way water moves around rock, finding the path of least resistance, leaving no particular mark. College briefly promised coherence. He changed his major 3 times, not from indecision, but from the genuine hope that the right subject would reach in and locate him. It didn't. He graduated with a degree in economics because his advisor said it was practical. His 20s were loud. He filled them with work, alcohol, women who found his blankness attractive in a way that open space is briefly attractive before it becomes unsettling. He was not cruel. He was, several women told him, simply unreachable. He agreed with them. He did not know what to do with the agreement. He married at 31 because she was steady, and he believed steadiness might be transferable. She was steady. It was not transferable. He was faithful, present in every logistical sense, and somewhere else entirely. He had a son who at 15 said, Dad, you're always here, but I never feel like you're here. The sentence operated on him like surgery. He went to therapy for the first time at 44. The therapist said his early experiences had interrupted the formation of a stable self-concept. He asked what to do about that. The therapist said it was slow work. He quit after 6 sessions. At 52, he had a cardiac event, minor, that nonetheless stopped him. He was in the hospital for 3 days, alone, for the first time in years, with nothing to perform. He noticed something small and quiet underneath it all. Not a self exactly, more like the place where one might have grown, had circumstances been different. He did not transform. That would be too clean. What he did was slow down. He repaired something with his son. He started walking the same route every morning until it became a place that held him gently, reliably, without asking anything back. That was a reference, a quote from part of the research. He died at 73, not at peace exactly, but quieter than he had been. His son spoke at the funeral and said his father had spent his whole life trying to arrive somewhere, and that in the last years he thought maybe his father had. Nobody in the room knew what he meant. His son wasn't entirely sure either, but it felt true, which in the end was the closest either of them had come to the thing itself.
Oh, wow.
Whew.
Right.
Just as
So,
good.
huh?
Just as good.
Yeah.
Okay, so both of these people had selves that were always there waiting, right?
Mm,
And what they were missing wasn't the self, it was the condition for it to be seen,
mhm.
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Seen by the world and seen by themselves.
Right.
Seen. The whole idea, seen is the thing that's most important. So I have these three cards that one is space as the condition of self, the other one is space as a witness, and the last one is space as resistance. And all of those rolled up into those two stories.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so space as a condition of self, the scene potential is the moment the character stays and notices that they stayed.
Mhm.
Space is witness. The scene potential is a
Yeah.
character entering a space that sees them,
Yeah.
perhaps for the first time.
Yeah.
So if you've never been seen and all of a sudden you're seen, what's that like?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the last one, space as resistance. And the potential scene is a character refusing to leave a space and what that refusal costs and what that refusal creates.
Ah,
This is, this is the hill I die on. Well, what is that? What is that like?
yeah.
What does that mean? What does that create?
Yeah.
So um
Ah,
the whole idea is visibility. Visibility equals personhood. Seeing is everything.
uh-huh.
And you're seeing, you can't be seen in a vacuum, you're seen in the space.
Yeah.
So what does that
Yeah.
look like?
Yeah. Yeah. Terrific. Both are terrific. Of course, I can relate because of Teresita suddenly being
Mm.
seen. So it was, so my mental mind goes immediately to your fellow and how he reacts to not being seen. It's very,
Mm.
very deep and very, very interesting. You talk about his loud 20s. He reacts to not seeing himself by trying to make events around him where he can look at the events and try to find himself in the stuff he's made happen around him.
Yeah, but he's not there. He's the thing that struck me when I was about him was the thought that he thought that steadiness could be transferable.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, that was
That was beautiful.
But in the end, it was because his route that he takes for his walk.
well, yeah, he took, but it was the idea of doing that walk steadily
Yeah.
over and over and
Yeah.
over and
Yeah.
over again
Yeah.
without, you know, gas flying all over the place,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So,
So
so steadiness did eventually catch up with him.
steadiness did.
Yeah.
It did.
Mhm.
It did. And that's the whole thing that I came away with from this session was constancy
Yeah. Yeah.
is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Constancy
Yeah.
is constancy, consistency, doing it and somehow you do it over and over and over and over and over again, but somehow it never gets boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the more you do it, the more you become it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, and what that looks like in the becoming that,
Yeah.
and that becomes the story.
Oh my goodness.
I love it. Well, I'm so impressed with how you took a, a concept like space or setting and flipped it to make it something that was multidimensional in terms of an individual. So you're not talking about necessarily a physical scene set with things. The space is what occupies the person. That is just epic because it brings a whole other dimension to how we use space in narrative. When you apply it to an individual and how they move within themselves and then move through the world, it gives you a whole nother layer of getting to know a character, of understanding why they do the things that they do,
Yeah.
who they think they are versus you, the writer, and who you think they are. I mean, it opens a whole field of ways of looking at moving a character through a story in a way that has gravity. So many times when I listen or read your pieces, the word that always comes to mind is gravity. You're very good at cultivating a sense of this matters. This has something I want to share with you that you could potentially learn or make a discovery. You write with such gravity, even when things are really funny, it's still there. So I'm so grateful that you dive in and you just don't worry about, how is this going to be perceived, or am I saying the right thing? You just lay it out there on the page and let it happen. And these are the kinds of discoveries that you can make if you're willing to do that. Just put it on the page and let it happen. And wow,
Yeah.
How would you
fantastic.
even describe that technique? Because it's very difficult sometimes to get into a character's deep motivation, especially motivations that are lifelong and enduring and shape the person's life. You when you think about, well, how would you do it? You'd have him talking to himself, or you'd have him having a conversation. Then you can lay out all the little tips, and techniques for, oh, you can do it this way or this way or this way or this way, or you could do it Deb's way.
Yeah.
And
Well,
convey it at a gut level, at a real,
yeah,
takes your whole
yeah.
person in hand and says, see?
These pieces, this is operating at a very granular character arc level. So, you're not writing a piece about, Sally went to the store and something happened and she made this discovery. It's not grounded in that way. This is more of what you would consider more of a literary character arc style, because you're working within the theory, you're working within how to develop the character in the narrative, but you're doing it from a very deep level. So yeah, this is advanced character arc work.
Yeah.
It is.
You get a gold star.
Yeah, so much so for me that I think it almost serves as a lesson. It serves as something that is worth making some note cards about. How did this come about? How did you manage to take two people who, by ordinary plot definition, character creation for a story, could hardly support a scene, and yet you're giving the whole arc of their lives, and they matter.
Yeah.
Whereas so many times in stories, you pick someone, oh, well, he's a martial arts expert, or he's a billionaire, or he's a this, or he's a movie star, or some grand thing. And now you're going to take a story about this grand personage, and you take from your starting point that the moment you emerge from your mother with your scream, I'm here, I'm a person, and apply it
Mhm.
twice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking
Fantastic.
I'm thinking that the roots are in in my culture, there is an experience card that I'm gonna put up.
Ooh.
Okay, that basically has this woman making sure that she keeps the history. And I thought about you, Victoria, and your what do you call it? Your memory card, your memory book, or your family book. The one that your daughter is claiming already, and you said, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you can't claim it yet. You got
Yeah.
right. But
Yeah.
this is like really so important.
Yeah.
So important. The idea of I mean, that's another card that I made that I'm also going to put up, and it's about the idea of the piece of wisdom that gets passed down culturally. The piece of wisdom is short. It says your dress down, keep your dress down and your eyes open.
Yeah. Great
Now,
advice.
right.
Yeah.
You can get somewhere with that, you know?
Yeah.
You can get somewhere with that. As
What's a
opposed to
dress?
say
What's a dress? Got to translate it. Just joking.
Yeah.
but that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
I think my born otherness
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
is where these different entrances come from.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Because you mine these things either from different parts of your life or from your observations, and you're able to turn them into, like I said, something with gravity, something that feels important, something that as you read into it, you find as the listener, you're leaning in because you know this matters. There's something here that matters, and you don't disappoint. As the author, you always bring it back around to whatever that nugget is, and I think that that's part of who you are. You've collected these things, and this is your opportunity to kind of turn them over and figure out how you want to put them back out in the world. And I think your writing is a way that you do that, and you do it extremely well.
Yeah.
Mm, good. Good.
You get to stay.
I'm sorry, I get to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also speaks to something that is very dear to my heart, which is that every human being is important. And to me, I express it through the character trait of humility. The character trait of humility isn't, oh, I'm worthless. It's that everyone is of value, even me.
Mhm.
And but you take it from a platitude to instances, human instances.
Embodiment.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah. So you can, so it
And
can
that is great character
felt.
development.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. I can see something on your. What are you thinking? Something, Kathleen? What is it?
Me?
Yes,
I
I can
thought I
see it.
just said.
I can see
I,
it on
I
your face.
I just said, well, because I'm thinking of your, and I don't want to spill your beans, you see, but I'm thinking of it in terms of your mission. And my mind is going
Oh,
1,000
gray
ways.
hair matters. Yes.
Yes, your gray hair matters because you have expressed two people whose gray hair mattered. And if they had come to you to join you in in the memoir writing or sharing of life or whatever that is going to develop in out of Gray Hair Matters, they would also be able to see the value in their own lives. And that is what I see as your mission. So yes, my brain was going a mile a minute.
Yeah, I could see it so clearly. Um,
So do
Yeah.
you want to tell our viewers a little bit about Gray Hair Matters?
well, let me just say that Gray Hair Matters grew out of the realization that something had transformed my life. And when I looked around and I said, what happened? What happened? And I just, when I was being very honest with myself, I said, oh my gosh, LiLLiPub happened. That's what happened. Because I live alone. There's no immediate witness to whatever it is that happens, in my life. There's the only thing I have friends I can call, or I have one friend that I can call, right? But he's married and he's a he. So that's different. It's different. But he's a wonderful, wonderful, supportive person that I've known 30 years. So, he's there. But where's my ride or die? I don't have a ride or die, because he's got his own ride or die, right? So, but anyway, the thought is, LiLLiPub gave me something to do through the week that I could present at the end of the week, and have somebody ask me, well, yeah, why'd you do so and so? Oh, you did? Well, did you think about da 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 da? No. Oh, wow, I can think about that too. So that an exchange came, and I could feel myself, I don't know, standing a little taller, smiling a little bit more often, being just a little bit more, because I'm really a shy type, really an introvert, but being less and less and less and less afraid to speak out about X, Y, or Z thing. All of this came about because I was following the Zettelcasting road, trying to figure out how to get my because I have such a ideas and things just keep popping out at me. And then they're lost. So the thing is, you don't want to lose your good ideas. You don't want to lose your at the very least, preserve them so that somebody else can find them, and use them. At the very least, if you don't do a deliberate output yourself. So I thought, I'm 78. Lord, I'm 78. Oh my goodness, I'm 78. That's almost 80. 80? But this happened to me. So if at, I guess it was starting at 77, right, to 78, if this happened to me over this relatively short amount of time, there's a solution for senior isolationism. The idea of coming together with your lived experiences and writing about it and talking about it with other people who've had similar or different, I guess, because everybody's different, lived experiences. And putting them together in a way that can be shared by people coming after you down the road and people who were here at this time now. And so, ergo, gray hair matters. Okay, that's where it came from. And hopefully I can make it as real to other people as it has become to me. this is the goal.
And look for it because it's going to be a space on LiLLiPub. And I always do a thing for come join LiLLiPub, but I think Deb said it better than I could ever possibly say it. So we'll just stop there.
Okay.
Victoria, what'd you bring us?
Well, I dipped into the Wayback Machine just a tiny bit because when I was rooting around in my note box, the whole way I came up with this question for the session was I ran across an early note card that I made when I wrote my little vignette about Alex going to find Javi. And I was driving and I was just thinking about how I had used just a few notes about what Javi's environment was like in order to figure out what I wanted that to look like when I wrote it. Because obviously I can't see inside Mel's head to know what that space looks like. So I had to take the few cues that I had and try and insert my character into his space in some sort of meaningful way. So that's how the challenge was born, was thinking over how I figured that out. So the piece is real short. It's only about 300 words. So I'm going to tell you what is on my note card first, and then I'll read you what came of it. Because that's generally how I work. I start with a few gathered snippets of something. I talk in my book about the minimum viable unit. And in my newsletter, I mentioned the minimum viable idea. Like, how much information do you need in order to prompt you to start the writing process? So for me, I need about 3 note cards worth of stuff. 1's not quite enough, 2 is kind of okay, 6 or more, and I just get lost in trying to include all the details and I give up. So somewhere around 3, maybe 4 note cards is enough to put me in like the right space where then I can start to craft a scene around what I want to say. So on my note card, I originally was going to introduce the two of them, Javi and Alex, in dialogue. And I just sketched out, maybe she asks a question that kind of kicks things off. And immediately I decided that I didn't want to introduce them through dialogue. And even further, I wanted her to meet him in an unoccupied room. I didn't even want him to be there. So that changed immediately to the opposite of what I originally envisioned. Then I have the maps. And I remind myself that Javi's at the cafe with Helen, so he's not there. So that gives me my reason for why it's unoccupied. And the notes that I pulled out of Mel's previous writings were there's piles of boxes, there's file cabinets with some drawers or a drawer missing, and it's kind of a chaotic space. You know, in my mind, I envisioned it kind of like a professor's workroom that has, books piled up and papers and all the stuff. And so when I wrote the scene, the thing that I wanted to kind of draw a line to was his chaotic space and, the empty drawers and those elements, but then the maps, because Alex is trying to figure out what's going on in the sky with the satellites. She's fascinated by this. And I knew that the way to bring some symmetry, some order to the scene was to use the maps. And I remembered that Mel had mentioned stuff about the zodiac. So I thought, well, it would make sense if I put maps on the wall that depict this. And they're in a straight line. So in contrast to what's going on in the room, you have this very clean depiction of things in the sky that are on the wall. So those were the elements that I brought, and this is what I wrote. Alex sat alone on the garden patio with the shoebox-sized Zettelcast in and pulled all of the unlined note cards that had patterns made of individual dots. She laid them in a grid on the table. She let her gaze soften so the dots ran together in lazy swirls and erratic lines. Something about it made sense, but the meaning was just out of reach. She tried to remember the last time she felt like she understood. That's when she remembered Javi. Hello? Alex riffled the note cards like playing card deck as she shouldered open the door to the artifacts area. It had been forever since she'd been in the sub-basements. The smell of things past transported her to places she'd never been or seen, but that she had a longing for. Is anyone here? She peered around books and boxes, but didn't see anyone. She looked at a note card with her carefully written script, See Javi. Okay, she was here to see Javi, but he obviously wasn't being seen by her. She tucked the cards into her jacket pocket and decided to snoop around. Her eyes settled on a handsome multi-drawer cabinet whose most striking feature was the absence of drawers. Looks like you lost your marbles there, buddy. She ran her hand along the gaping maws where drawers had been, but where'd they go? She continued to wander along the wall where a series of weathered maps caught her attention. Each one had been framed and hung in a line down the wall. She used her index finger to trace orbital systems with thin lines of trajectory and circling spirals. The faded watercolor blues and greens drew her in. As she moved to the next one, a faint sense of déjà vu washed over her. Pencil-drawn pictures of animals covered an oval sky. A lion, a bull, a crab, each rendered carefully in dots with the utmost attention to economy of space. Alex pulled her note cards from her pocket and shuffled through. None were an exact match, but this seemed monumentally important. Her mind circled the airport of meaning as her stomach rumbled in protest against all of the energy being expended on this puzzle. Lunch. Maybe she'd find Javi in the lunchroom.
Oh.
So that's what that looked like for me.
Uh-huh. Wow. Anyone would recognize the space, but yet you fleshed it out with different set of eyes, and that's so true because each person would come into it with a different set of eyes.
I was very glad when Mel read it, or rather heard it, that he said, yes, this works. Because obviously I'm rewriting a space that he created,
Yeah.
inserting myself into it. But he said no, that because of, I don't think it's spoilery, because of Javi's explorations and disposition, shall we say, it would be accurate that he would have these kinds of maps and drawings on the wall. So it worked out just how I had planned, fortunately. Doesn't always, but in this case it did. So that was an example of, I knew the elements that I needed in order to write the scene I needed, and drafting it out and having the other author look at it validated that, yeah, what I came up with worked.
Yeah. Whew. We're running into more of that where we bump into each other's territory, which had to
Yay.
happen eventually.
That's that is that's where the intersections
Yeah.
start driving things.
Yes. And it's good. It's taken some time, obviously, because there's multiple authors. If one person was just hammering away, it would just get done. But it's like each writer has had to sort of visualize and carve out their space and their perceptions of the world so that you have something to bring to the intersection. You kind of have to have a sense of some way in order to then start, putting up against others and moving the story that way. So even though it seems like it's taking a long time, it's unrolling beautifully. And in retrospect, it almost feels like it was planned that way, though it totally was not, I assure you. But it works. It works.
Yeah, in talking with another Lilliputian about this project, I still think we're zero drafting, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we are.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
What's the hurry?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Too
I would
fun
love
watch.
to see, as we get closer to feeling it coming into a shape,
Uh-huh.
it
Mhm.
creates its own hurry. But the
Yeah.
hurry to get it to that point
No.
I don't think it actually that problem afflicted any of us as authors, which is good
Yeah.
because we're not,
Hmm.
we're not sending an outline to a publisher and looking to get validated and
Yeah.
all of those things that are completely fine for somebody who wants that life.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have so much, we have to feel our way around with 10 of us writing the story.
Yeah.
Well, and selfishly, this is the best part. This is like dating. I mean, you're still discovering things. You're still in the sweetness of all of the possibility. Like I keep saying, every choice that you make eliminates all the others. And
Uh-huh.
so there's a reason writers get marooned in the first 10 chapters of a project, or sometimes even in the first chapter, because it's the sweetness of possibility that's so intoxicating. When it's all just in your head, you get to live in that world as long as you want to, because nothing's been nailed down. When
Yeah.
you start pinning the butterfly on the page, however, sometimes it's ugly and it's gross and things don't work, and then you have to do the work of the writing instead of just enjoying the world. And I think in a lot of ways each of us is still enjoying the world and the possibilities.
Yeah.
And as everybody brings a new piece, I find it goes the other direction. It opens more possibilities. And so, we're still very much in that discovery phase. I think you're exactly right, but it still feels like progress. It doesn't feel like
Oh,
we're
yeah.
stalled, just hanging out.
No, not to me. It feels
Yeah.
like it's shifting gears forward.
Yeah.
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 But got to get it on the page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So, hey, Kathleen, if you wanted to throw out a note for where people could find us, just in case they forgot, where would they find us?
They'd find us in lillipub.org and take a look for so many spaces when you get there. You'll be welcomed into the Lilligans home space, and people will just come to you and rush up to you and greet you. Be sure to look for Fusion Writing, where Victoria leads us every week. Be on the lookout for Deb's space, Gray Hair Matters, to appear shortly. Look up the Roanoke project, which we're all working on and talking about here. That's a space there too, and more. There's character development spaces, there's Zettelcast and spaces. Um, there's just a wealth of spaces. So come on over to lillipub.org and see what we're all about. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. I think it's a 77 wrap.
77 wrap. Thank you all.